I will, with that, I'm going to recognize the, at the request of the ranking member of the subcommittee, the full committee ranking member, the gentlewoman from California. For
Thank you very much, Mr. Powley and Ms. Rosenberg. The United States had a long-standing bipartisan policy to explicitly exclude certain humanitarian activities from sanctions restrictions. Specifically, humanitarian acceptance allowed for trade in agricultural commodities, medicine, and medical devices. Such exceptions are reflected in legislation and executive orders that form the United States sanctions programs, including those related to Iran. These humanitarian exceptions reflect basic respect for all human life, and they are also important to our broader national security interests. Right now, there's a very serious humanitarian crisis occurring in Gaza, and although the Biden administration was able to successfully negotiate a temporary ceasefire to allow for more humanitarian assistance, much more is needed. Mr. Powley, Ms. Rosenberg, can you discuss the importance of humanitarian exceptions in the context of what is happening in Gaza and U.S. strategic interests in the broader region? What would an elimination of humanitarian exceptions to sanctions and what that would mean for the innocent civilians in Gaza?
Thank you very much for the question. It is correct that the ability to, the exceptions that exist to pay for agricultural commodities, medicine, and medical devices are a matter of longstanding policy. They are enshrined in congressional statute over years, over many programs, over successive Congresses. They are enshrined in executive authority as well, over a variety of administrations. And as you say, it reflects respect for human life. It respects core values of Congress, of the administration, about providing for meeting basic human needs. These exceptions that exist, the ability to pay for humanitarian goods, apply across an array of sanctions programs. And so to the extent that where there is a need, so for example, you were noting in Gaza, our exceptions exist there as well, which is to say that sanctions should not be, and we will work so that they cannot be here, restrictions on the provision of humanitarian assistance there as elsewhere. One note I would add, given that we're here to discuss Iran and its support for terror, including through proxy groups in the region, and our concern about the potential for diversion of humanitarian aid, it creates the necessity for us to work diligently to ensure that humanitarian aid is in a number of circumstances restricted, and we have great clarity on the fact that it shall be used for humanitarian aid and not diverted.
Thank you, Mr. Palin.
Thank you very much. I would reiterate what Assistant Secretary Rosenberg said in terms of this administration's commitment of support on humanitarian issues, which echoes support across multiple administrations for addressing humanitarian issues and also having these humanitarian carve-outs in our legislation that allow for with the proper due diligence, humanitarian transaction to go to people across the world, including in areas where we have very strong disagreements about their policy approaches. Since October 7th, President Biden and Secretary Blinken have emphasized their support for Israel and Israel's right to defend themselves, including against Iranian-backed terrorism. At the same time, President Biden and Secretary Blinken have also emphasized their focus on humanitarian support to Gaza.
Thank you. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle have alleged that President Biden has weakened Iran sanctions, but my understanding is that President Biden has only increased sanctions since the Trump administration. In fact, the two transactions waivers that are the focus of this hearing are actually carried over from the Trump administration. Can you please confirm that these are the same sanctions waivers from the Trump administration that have been continued by the Biden administration? Is that true?
Thank you very much. Yes, in terms of the waiver with regards to Iraq and Iraq's purchases of electricity from Iran, this is the 21st time that this waiver has been issued, the 20th renewal across administrations. So this administration has been very clear about our support for Iraq, and that's what this waiver is about. I'm happy to get into more detail. And as Ms. Rosenberg said, our support for, excuse me.
I'll let you finish the sentence, but the gentlelady's time has expired.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Go back.